Hi, this is Declan Shalvey, former artist of Moon Knight, and you're listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 222. And you are with your High Priest of KHONSHU, Ray, and joining me today, whenever, is Valley Patroni, top-tier Patroni, Mr. Daniel Doing, creator of Fringe Knight as well. Daniel, welcome. There.
Happy to be here, Ray. Always good to be in the congregation of KHONSHU.
Yes. I feel like, Daniel, that I should maybe edit some applause there, just from that reaction of you from the video.
Just for me.
Do it, he says. Anyway, Daniel is joining me tonight, for this episode. We're going to do, as usual, an idle chat at the top of the week, and it is on a bit of a spotlight on Werewolf by Night, aka Jack Russell. Why not? It ties in with some kind of loose news that has been trickling through on the interwebs, but it also feeds into the episode later on in the week. So before that, of course, a big thank you to our sponsors. So all our gracious patroonies, those listed as co-producers and executive producers on each of the episodes, go check out their names. It's a Hall of Fame kind of thing, and each of them valued very much for contributing and helping prop up the show. So a big thanks to the likes of Monsieur Daniel, just with me here. And then we have Justin, Derek, Kyle, Wayne, Jordan, Josh, James, Russell, and Anthony. Thanks each and every one of you. Also as well, on top of that, Daniel, being a Stephen Grant tier. I always forget it. I think it's Stephen Grant.
I believe so. Or
a Mark Spector. One of those. You're up there. You're the top tier one. Anyway,
I'm pretty important.
Anyway, it would be remiss if I did not announce Daniel Doing's Fringe Knight. It's an original indie comic based on Erie, Pennsylvania's very own mysterious superhero. A shout out a bit later on, Daniel, with things to come for Fringe Knight, of course. And Hello Headphones, empowering gamers to play at their best, and Dreamland Comics, the superhero superstore. So Daniel, we are here. You are standing, I am sitting. It is morning here, it is evening over there. We are really opposites, two sides of the same coin, so to speak. But anyway, with a bit of white noise, I wanted to open up before we get into Jack Russell's spotlight. There was a bit of news posted on the Facebook group. Now, this was a bit of a while ago, but we hadn't broached it on the show. And it was sent in by Phil, the Drop King Phil from Capes and Lunatics, and I'm just going to read what he had posted up. He said, a while back, Kevin Smith was supposed to do a Howard the Duck animated series on Hulu, which we kind of both know, right? That got kiboshed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That project got cancelled, but he claims on today's episode of Fat Man Beyond that he wanted to use Werewolf by Night on the show, and was told the character was already taken by the live-action division. I shall repeat that again. Was told the character was already taken by the live-action division. So does this mean we're getting Moon Knight versus the Werewolf in the Disney Plus series? Daniel, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm thinking we better get an homage to that cover of Werewolf by Night number 32 with, him throwing the darts at Werewolf. Well, there's some terrified blonde chick in the background. There better be a blonde chick somewhere, or I'm going to be very cross with them.
I want to say that cover is iconic now, just because Archie, didn't they kind of do a spoof of it?
Yeah, Archie and John did a little parody of it, which who doesn't do parody of everything anymore? But it's nice to see that Moon Knight has reached the level of others wanting to parody him.
Yes, exactly. Well, Daniel, I would say that only the greats get parodied, so hence Moon Knight's equates to greatness. Yeah. So this is interesting. So it's if you're interested, loonies, I'll put it in the show notes. Fat Man Beyond, episode 33. I'm sure they've done a whole heap more episodes than that, but that was on their Facebook post. So have a listen to that. I haven't listened to it. I'm just taking what Phil has told me. This is blind faith. This is KHONSHU blind faith.
I had heard that as well because I was listening to the.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, right. Did that kind of like go, just like kind of prick your ears and go, oh my God, what's it?
Yeah, as soon as I heard Werewolf by Night, I just kind of like, literally, it was like the dog finding the steak, just like, what? What?
Well, I mean,
what about Moon Knight?
The other option, though, I guess, would be it could potentially turn up in Blade. I mean, we know the Blade movie is coming, but it would just seem more appropriate in the Moon Knight kind of corner, right? Because of that affiliation with the comics. But
and the other thing I have to wonder is I had seen on a post somewhere it was like a production sheet for something where they were like listing all like the stuff coming up, like Disney Plus shows, movies, and everything. And I noticed a name in there. I almost hesitate to say it out loud because I know 50 million people are going to be going, "No, you're wrong. You're an idiot." Well, just completely from my own perspective, there was a title for it was either going to be a show or a movie. I did not look because my brain nearly exploded looking at it. But I saw the name Midnight Suns.
Whoa, really?
Be announced.
Oh.
It was right there with like fantastic.
Wow, really? I mean, there's always been talk of Midnight Suns coming up, and of course, you know, Supernatural. You can't go past Werewolf by Night in that.
No. Yeah, you got to have that, and the other thing they've got to have. Dracula has to owe Moon Knight money. I don't care what it's for. It could be for a valet parking ticket. Dracula needs to owe Moon Knight money. Again, just for all of us out there who have seen it and we're like, please.
Those guys over at Moon Knight Core would just absolutely lose their shizzle if that happened. I'd lose my shizzle as well. That's great. That would be a great nod to actually the Moon Knight fan base.
Back my
Yeah, exactly. That would be phenomenal. I'd love to see it. Do you think we'll get, I mean, aside from the association with the meme, do you think we'll get Dracula in the MCU? Like,
that's going to be a tricky one just because, like, you know, everybody's got Dracula, you know. Universal's got Dracula. You know, Underworld's got Dracula. Like, everybody's got a Dracula. So for them to do their own version, this kind of goes without saying, but they've got to cast the right person for it, which, like, again, I give amazing big ups to, like, the casting agents for, like, the Marvel movies because they nail it. Yeah. Except for when they don't tell us that they confirm things like, you know, Oscar Isaac being, you know, Mark Spector.
Yeah.
You know.
That's I find that a little, I don't know, a little annoying. It's either that or the other way around, that it leaks out so quickly that it loses its thunder, or the thunder gets stolen from them, which is a shame. I'd like to just get an official announcement, but yeah, they tend to be a little slack in that regards. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like I don't know. Like I think they would. I would think for Dracula, I would want somebody middle aged, possibly. I wouldn't want like a young guy trying to play an old guy. You know.
Yep.
Again, and it brings back to the question: who would you want to see play Jack Russell?
Yeah, he's an interesting one. I think you can really take liberties with him as well. I mean, you could say that for any character, but what I found interesting, I mean, we'll get into it as well. I had a little quick look at the history because I'm not too familiar with the overall history of Jack Russell, but how his father was like a Transylvanian count as well, Gregor Russoff. And that was his real father. And I guess that's how he got his lycanthropy. But
from the Darkhold.
Oh yeah. I mean, so then, like, if you look at his roots, you could really, I'm talking about just aesthetically, because everyone in their head, I guess in the comics, knows Jack Russell as having kind of like a strawberry blonde hair, that kind of thing, a bit shaggy hair, you know. But he could really take on any look, I think. So as for who would it be, I don't know. I would like to see Jack Russell a little young, possibly younger than Moon Knight, so younger than Oscar Isaac.
I'd go with like maybe around 19, like when he first appeared. You know, he's just
teenage that young.
Kid.
Yeah.
That would... You know, he was just a teenage kid dealing with, you know, angsty werewolf problems. Then here comes this mercenary dressed in all silver who's beating the living crap out of him. Yeah. I
mean, he's got to be imposing, like Moon Knight, like this kind of force, this merc force, because he was a merc for hire, you know, back in Werewolf by Night. So he's got to be threatening. But yeah, I like that. Younger, I was thinking more like in the 20s, like mid-20s, but like, get him in there younger, because you could really play with different dynamics, with that. As for the Dracula, I just wanted to say, I'm sure you've seen the Blade trilogy, right? Yeah. I wasn't too impressed with that. He's an Aussie actor, so, you know, I can't remember his name. He's in Legends of Tomorrow now.
You're not allowed. I can, because I'm a dumb American.
No, but yeah, I didn't think he was the right fit. He didn't have that presence to him, and I think Dracula needs that.
He needs like that aristocracy, like, you know, like just like
yes. I was in my mind. I was jokingly thinking, just get Gary Oldman back. I mean, he probably doesn't need makeup anymore to be the old Dracula.
Oh my god, that would work.
But it'd be interesting to see if Dracula goes. Look, if werewolves are in the MCU, then you're looking at the classic monsters, right? But you're right. I mean, it's going to be a fine line to walk because of the Universal. I don't know how the rights work with that, so
like, I guess as long as he doesn't look like Bela Lugosi's version of Dracula, you know, with like the slick back hair and the little, you know, tuxedo and all that.
Yeah.
As long as he looks like that, I guess, like, you know, it's like, you know, free domain kind of thing.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Russell family, I noticed something. I've been meaning to send this to you. Mm-hmm. Somebody had pulled up this thing. I forget which group I was in, but because, you know, like they showed the Darkhold in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with like Robbie Ray as Ghost Rider.
Yep.
There's a page in there that they like freeze framed on, and it looks like, you know, like a family tree, and it's in this weird language. Well, somebody like deciphered like the alphabet of the Darkhold or something like that, and they claim at the top of that family tree it said Russell.
Really? Wow.
The Russell family tree.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Again.
Yeah, the Darkhold.
That would have been like the greatest unfound Easter egg in the history of ever.
Well, I mean, I can't wait for the Darkhold to make its way to the MCU. We know now through WandaVision it's there. Unfortunately, it's been confirmed, right, by Disney that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not canon, which is a bit of a shame.
Well, again, you know, because of Loki, it could be back in because
it could, yeah, exactly. Same with the Netflix thing. Same with there was even I saw this really. This is what is it? That stupid website. We got this covered or something. We got this, you know, that one. We got this discovered or something. Yeah, whatever that one. They said there's a potential for Selene from Underworld to have fought with Blade. For that to turn up in the MCU. Yeah. It's like, well, you can do anything, can't you? Like,
yeah. Like the actress who played Selene, like she's been really wanting like a versus with Blade for the long time.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, why die?
What was that? Sorry.
I'm just like thinking, like, why would you want that? You know you're gonna die.
Yeah, I did like the Underworld. For the most part, I think it lost its wheels towards the end.
One is
yeah. But no, that'll be quite interesting. Also, as well, wouldn't mind if the MCU Marvel Studios have reapproached Wesley Snipes to probably take on his role as a Blade from a multiverse. That would be cool. But he didn't he throw some shade on the Marvel Studios or something because he wasn't getting a part?
Well, no, like, I don't think it was that. Like, he made some comment like, "Oh, I'm too old to be running around in a leather vest," or like something like that.
Okay.
Kind of like that. But like, if I remember correctly, like in the comics, like, doesn't Blade have a daughter who's also calling herself Blade or something like that?
There was going to be a comic book series based on Blade's daughter. This was back in 2017, 2018. It was announced, and then unceremoniously it just disappeared. I was looking forward to it because I remember going, "This is great. It's a nice new take. It's his daughter, and he's more of a mentor." But it never eventuated, which is a shame. We might get it later on when
join the Avengers. That's probably why.
Yeah. And probably, when the movie is around the corner, we'll get a lot of Blade centric stuff, as Marvel do, rightly so. I mean, you want to market it, so we might get something then, hopefully, because I do like Blade. I think he's a good, really cool character.
Character. It'd be cool if he shows up in the Mobius movie.
Oh, do you think? Could be.
Well, I mean, it is Morbius, the living vampire. I mean,
yeah. I know, but like it's Sony, right? And they, well, I don't know what the relationship they have with the MCU, but Marvel Studios, but properties are, can't touch this one, can touch that one, can't touch this one. Yeah,
it's really weird, like, because again, last I heard, so this could be like 2 minutes old and it's already changed 50 million times. But like, from what I heard, like, they were finishing up the contract with Sony to do this last Spider-Man movie, and then they were going to offer Sony some like big buyout and get the rights back. Because it's interesting. Not a lot of people know this, because like everybody focuses on like, Tom Holland Spider-Man in the movies, but technically Marvel still, like MCU Marvel, they still own the rights for Spider-Man and any TV properties. So Tom Holland get a show, like a Disney Plus show, not involved or Sony.
Okay. Sorry there, Daniel. I just had to mute myself a little. Neighbour's got a big ass Harley, and he's just fired it up. So, listeners, I'm going to try to reduce the noise in post-production, but I can just hear the engines. It's just purring away. So anyway, well, that's an interesting fact. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. With Blade, I'm still keen to see Morbius. Jay Leto. I don't mind. People are panned it already. I think it looks decent. It's not going to be the greatest comic book movie ever, but if it's solid, I'm happy.
He looks like he's ripped right out of the comics. That's very, very cool.
Yep. The old pug nose.
I love how they're bringing like these comic book accurate costumes in, and just like showing everybody else like, "Oh, you can't do that costume. It looks cool in comics, but it doesn't look cool in real life." They're like, "Ha ha!"
Yeah. Me too. I mean, I'm just thinking immediately to an extent. I mean, I also do love how they do say in WandaVision they use the Halloween costumes as their because it would be a bit of a stretch. I reckon Wanda's costume would probably work. Vision's ultra colourful.
I think for half the males in America, it would work. Right.
Well, fair play. Well, shall we get to, before we get too sidetracked, I mean, we're looking at Werewolf by Night. Look, before we say anything as well, I want to just give a big shout out to the podcast Werewolf by Night. Go check it out. If you want to learn more about Werewolf by Night, they're the ones. This is just a kind of like a rough overview from us, looking from a Moon Knight lens, so to speak, Daniel, right? So, I guess overview-wise, and I'll put it in the show notes as well, in Wikipedia, fandom.com, stuff like that. Overview-wise, I'm not going to go through these copious notes here, Daniel, but Jack Russell, originally Jacob Russoff, he discovers his mom actually had side him through Gregor Russoff, a Transylvanian baron and scholar. So he actually had the gene to turn him into a werewolf, and you find that later on in Werewolf by Night, because in America, in Los Angeles, Laura, Jack's mum, married again Philip Russell, so hence Jack Russell. And he has a sister, Lisa. And yeah, that's kind of the premise. The main gist of it was that he discovers his powers. At first, they're uncontrollable, right? So it's almost like an Incredible Hulk thing where he needs to restrain himself. Full moon's coming, kind of that classic thing. Just hide me, lock me up. Otherwise, I'm going to do terrible things. But we later find, as we go along, as he develops as a character, and he changes appearances as well. Daniel, though, you mentioned that Lon Chaney, the original look, which was very much the original Werewolf by Night look. By the time he reaches a second appearance in Moon Knight, 29 and 30, he starts taking that more bestial form. And they kind of retcon it in the fact that, again, later down the track, Jack Russell can transform himself at will to be that kind of the Lon Chaney looking werewolf, and he retains his intelligence. He can speak a little bit, and all that. He's not as strong, but in the full moon, but under a full moon, that's when he totally loses control, and he becomes more that beast wolf. I mean, I guess first thoughts, Daniel, as well. I mean, are you a horror person? Are you into like the werewolves? What do you think of Marvel's take on a werewolf or Werewolf by Night?
Well, I was always fascinated with just the general thoughts of lycanthropy, because I remember I grew up watching the old Universal monster movies, Dracula, the Wolfman, and then more hysterically, Abbott and Costello Meet the Wolfman. And then I remember I was I think I was 9 years old. I was in this old comic shop, and this was back in the olden days, right? There was this little hole in the wall where they had card tables where the legs looked like they were duct taped back on 15 times, and they had these giant, heavy, 100-pound long boxes put on them. There was dim light bulbs that they took out of a bathroom somewhere and just put in there just to give some light.
Yeah,
there's the odd smell of nachos, but nobody had nachos. The good old days.
Yeah, it's okay. So that, yeah. Sorry, I lost. So that was that LCS, was it? Sorry.
No. Oh man, no. This was a long time ago, but
okay.
I remember I was going through the books because I had gotten my allowance. It was a whole whopping, $5, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get a giant stack of books for $0.25 each.
Yeah.
And I was going through, wasn't really seeing anything that really caught my eye at the time. And then I got to the W's. I usually never got down that far. Usually I stopped at Spider-Man. I was like, I got that one.
Mm-hmm.
Got through the what ifs, and then I got to Werewolf by Night. I'm like, oh, what's this? And there, in all of its Mylar bagged semi mint glory, was issue 32.
Whoa!
That
holy hell!
I remember thinking, whoa, who's this guy? The Moon Knight. I was a terrible speller. I was 9 years old. But I'm going and I'm taking it to my mom. Hey, Mom, I want to get this one. She's like, ooh, that looks too violent. And I'm like, oh, come on. It's my money, please. Yeah. So I picked it up and I read through it, and I looked for issue 33, nowhere to be found. It was it was like 5 years later before I actually got to finish that story.
Oh.
But I just remember my first introduction to really being interested in not just Moon Knight, but werewolves and like the supernatural in general was that Werewolf by Night number 32.
Okay. So genuinely, when you first came across that, so was it the aesthetic of Moon Knight, or was it the werewolf aspect that really popped out for you when you reached the W? Like, it's a hard one, I know, but like, yeah.
I have to say, it's gonna sound, it was the red eyes to Moon Knight's costume.
Yeah, right.
Because that was such a weird contrast to me. I'm just like, ooh, how does that even work?
Yeah, yeah. You know, in an interview I read or heard, I can't remember, but they were throwing around names, and Moon Knight was almost going to be called Blood Moon. That was his first name. But then they decided to change it. And Moon Knight, stroke of genius, sounds so much better. But I guess that's the last remnants of that Blood Moon were those red goggles, because that was it. You only saw it on the cover and then it just disappeared and never seen it again. So for the better, I think. Yeah, cool. I mean, so, because werewolves are obviously classic, similar to you, Daniel, not so much the, like, Abbott Costello and those classic, old school horror movies. I remember there was a 90s show, it was literally just called Wolf, and it was about a guy who had lycanthropy. He was a werewolf, and it was just a really solid, werewolf TV show. Also as well, I can't not say American Werewolf in London. I saw that when I was actually quite young. Scarred me in some ways. Yeah. I mean, looking back on it, that was kind of like the first parallels with, say, KHONSHU, because he had his dead best friend just as his conscience, and his friend was decaying and stuff, and it's kind of like a Bushman haunting Mark. Yeah.
From
exactly. Exactly. Nice. A hardcover of Charlie Houston's The Bottom. So those were my introductions. I've always liked werewolves. I think that, and any horror, like Frankenstein, Dracula, werewolves, those three are my go-to. I mean, they're the big three. I can't say I'm a tragic fan. I'm not, I haven't got shelves and shelves of them, but it's just, I do respect that property, and I like that. I like that corner.
I remember, it was, I'm sorry, but like, I remember back in, I think it was like 2011. Again, I was at this local comic shop. This was when you started getting like the new comic shops where everything was like nice, shiny, and everything. Yeah. And they had a Marvel Max series for Werewolf by Night that I remember picking up and reading. And again, they kind of like reawakened my love of the character, because I remember very specifically, like, he was at this stage where like he had it under control. He would go and lock himself in this giant steel box for, every full moon and everything. Yeah. And he would see messages that the wolf would leave him written with his own blood. Like, he'd slash his arm up and let me out.
Wow.
And then,
jeez.
Yeah, after he ends up having to go on the run, he's like sitting in this motel room. I remember there was a succession of panels. Jack Russell took this random lipstick that somebody left in the motel room and like wrote messages on the wall, and then he would like let himself go into a trance and let the wolf out, and the wolf would write back and respond to him. And I just remember like reading that panel, I'm just like, oh, this gave me chills.
Yeah, I love that kind of I don't want to say trope, like a stereotype thing of a person leaving themselves messages. Like, I'm thinking of Typhoid Mary in Netflix's Iron Fist, like, because her other personality. Yeah. I find that so creepy as well, like, because you're unaware of it, but you're trying to communicate with this other part of you that you don't really have access to. Look, one of the things I think, as I said, like the werewolves and stuff, I'm just going to run through quickly his power set. And one of the, I guess, slightly, I wouldn't say disappointing, but it is a little deflating, is that in the world of gods and Hulks and Wolverines, in the Marvel Universe, at the end of the day, the Werewolf by Night is stacked up power wise is not that impressive. Compared, look, let me just go through it. I don't know your thoughts on that, Daniel, but like I always think, because I like the handbook of the Marvel Universe. So superhuman strength. The werewolf possesses superhuman strength. In his intermediate form, he's able to lift about 1,500 pounds. Okay, so again, compare that to Thor, 100 class 100, 100 tons. It's not much. But under the full moon, in the full wolf-like, appearance, that is augmented, and he's capable of lifting 1 ton. So again, I'm thinking like Spider-Man. If Werewolf by Night goes against Spider-Man, there's no contest, right? Even Captain America can actually, probably not. US Agent can probably take care of him. Yeah. He's got about the 10-ton range. So I don't know. In that capacity, I know it's very fickle, but it's because the whole thing about the werewolf being ferocious and you got to contain him. I'm thinking, but there are a lot more dangerous beings out there. It's not like Wendigo. Yes, the Wendigo. My gosh, like a 10-foot. I'm sure the Wendigos are way stronger than the werewolf. So
that thing where like the werewolf by night's going against Wendigo, he's like Wendigo's just like holding his hand out, like holding werewolf by night by the forehead. He's going like
swinging. Yeah,
can't reach you.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, it's a little bit unimpressive, but I mean, I still love the character of Werewolf by Night. He's still, he's ferocious. The stories that I've seen him in are great. So he's got superhuman stamina, agility, reflexes, speed, acute senses that you would kind of associate with a werewolf. He's durable as well. He's capable of withstanding low caliber bullets. He can fall from great heights and exposed to high temperatures. He's got claws and teeth, I guess similar to the likes of say Tigra, where and not like to the effect of say Wolverine, who's got adamantium claws. He's got claws, and they're strong enough to. It says he ripped through fabric, wood, cinder block, and even some metal. So it's quite strong, but we're not talking adamantium or vib.
Probably.
Sorry, what was that?
Kind of like Wolverine Bone Claw level, yes. I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. And he actually does have a healing factor as well. So, not as good as Wolverine or Deadpool, of course, but his ability to heal is at least 10 times that of a human, which is pretty effective. So, strangely enough, as the werewolf, he's a formidable hand-to-hand combatant, so I don't know how he got trained. And his weaknesses, though, are typical to werewolves. The silver, basically. And it says, a silver bullet to the heart, he'll die within a matter of minutes. And if he's injured by silver, it can take him longer to heal. So kind of similar to the whole classic werewolf thing.
Hey everyone, this is Brian, the host of Inner Demons, the Ghost Rider podcast. And since 2017, Inner Demons has been the best place on the web for news, reviews, and regular discussion with our listeners about Marvel's Spirit of Vengeance, Ghost Rider. You can find us on Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and many other podcast catchers, as well as on Twitter @InnerDemonsGR. Remember, listening to your inner demons is not always a bad thing. Ride on.
I guess some questions here, Daniel, with Werewolf. What you've mentioned you got 32. I'm assuming you eventually got, or at least read 33. But where else have you read Werewolf by Night? We've seen him in.
Well, I remember seeing him in some of the Mark Spector Moon Knight run from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I didn't recognize him because, again, it just looked like they had like Wile E. Coyote in a leather vest running around, and I was like, "Wait, who's this?" And then I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh, that's Jack."
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I've seen him in some, like, just like in some other times. Like I've seen him in like the Monsters Unleashed. Yep. I remember he was in, I think it was like Miss Deadpool and the Howling Commandos, I believe it was.
Yes. Yep. Oh yeah, he's turned up a lot in the more recent times, I guess. But you're rightly so as well. I just want to cite, because we've crossed over to it, you mentioned Mark Spector Moon Knight. So he did appear 3 times there. The big Mark Spector Moon Knight issue 50, he was there. And then 52 to 53, I think that was with Gambit. Those issues. So he turned up along there as well. Also, by way of Moon Knight, he appeared in Volume 1, issues 29 and 30. And then also in the Houston run, Volume 5, issue 20, one of my favourites with Mike Deodato Jr. I love that issue. Oh, God, it's a one and done.
Good.
Yeah, it just encapsulates Moon Knight. It's dark. It's, it's swirling capes, but you've got this behemoth of a werewolf, and you've got Moon Knight just battling, again, like this normal man, just like going at it, at this beast. It's
thing of something like, don't think about it, don't try to reason with it, just beat into the ground until you can run away. That's all you can do. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, oh man,
yeah, it was quite grisly as well. Like there were decapitations in that issue.
Yeah. It was so good. And I remember there was the one panel they showed where I believe it was Marlene. No, I think it was Moon Knight. And he let all like the hobo werewolves out of their cages and like they attacked the guards. From Cabin in the Woods when they open up the cage on the guards and like all the monsters come out and get them. I kind of, if they got that from Moon Knight.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they do. They should pay Doug Mensch. No, they should pay no, Charlie Houston, or whoever. But yeah,
Hitler Universal. Where's my GG money check? Money.
But yeah, so those are the Moon Knight appearances. Look, I read there are a couple of complete collections of Werewolf by Night. I read the digital version of Volume 1, so that collects a lot. Marvel Spotlight 2 to 4 from 1971. It's got, I think, about half of the Werewolf by Night, maybe just under half. It's 1 to 15, the first 15 issues, which are fantastic. Mike Plug art is brilliant. It is really a nice. You know what surprised me, Daniel, that you were exposed to and read like those older classic comics when you were so young. Like I didn't start reading the 70s comics until, way older. But it'll be interesting. So did you find it too dense as a young tacker or because those 70s comics are a bit different to modern comics?
No, honestly, it's funny you mention that because what had happened was, like I mentioned, I was not a very strong reader when I was first starting out. And they were wanting to put me in all these different reading programs and all these after school things. And my mom was just like, no. I know what to do. Drove me to the local comic shop, pulled out $10, was like, all right, go around. If you see anything you think looks cool, pick it out. We're going to read it. And so I remember the first ever comic I ever read, and I can't believe I still remember this. It was an issue of Spider-Man from the late 70s, early 80s, where the Beyonder showed up and turned an entire skyscraper into gold.
Whoa.
And I just remember I'm sitting in the car just reading it back to front, and I'm like, wait, who's the Beyonder? Wait, who's the Kingpin? Why does he seem like such a jerkwad? Yeah. What's going on? I have to know more.
You were hooked already. You probably found your calling then. Yeah. That's cool. That's good. Because those earlier comics, they can be quite dense. And for someone that isn't interested or not that interested, you could easily be put off by it. So fair play that it didn't deter you. I think that's great. Also, as well, just wanted to mention, you touched upon it before as well, Daniel, the Werewolf by Night in the Marvel Universe has also been part of some teams. The Howling Commandos, you mentioned, Monsters Unleashed. He's part of the Legion of Monsters, which I read. I think that was by Dennis Hopeless, Dennis Hallam. And that had Elsa Bloodstone, one of my favorites. That was a fun little read. I mean, not, to be honest, it wasn't fantastic, but it was good. It was nice to see Elsa and the werewolf in there.
Good little read.
It's a good little read, yeah. And also, finally, I've got him in as part of Night Shift, led by the Shroud. So this was back in the Mark Gruenwald era of Captain America comics. So Werewolf by Night turned up there. I remember distinctly when Cap was... It was around the time that US Agent was starting to form, and Cap went underground and he bumped into the Night Shift, and so Werewolf by Night was in that too. Now, just a couple of questions as well, Daniel, bringing it back to relevance for Moon Knight. With the likes of how we've seen Moon Knight progress over the years and through the modern era, and move really away from that Werewolf by Night origin, I mean, that really is a thing in itself. How relevant do you think the characters of Werewolf by Night and the likes of Lupinar, I wanted to shout out from the Hulk magazine, how relevant do you think they are now to Moon Knight? I mean, are they still relevant at all?
Oh, Lupinar. Oh, that was a blast from... I was actually just reading about him.
Oh, yeah.
The giant omnibus that I have. I honestly think, in all reality, you cannot have a complete Moon Knight story without that Werewolf by Night connection. You just... It's such a big part of Mark's story, or Jake's story, or Steven's story, whoever you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a really big part, not just for Mark, but also for Jack as well. I mean, meeting each other, it kind of changed both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, because I think, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, or if you think otherwise, but, one of the things we love about Moon Knight is the character is so complex. There's a lot to him. I feel what has come up, the cream of the crop of his aspects are this connection with KHONSHU, so Egyptian mythology, and his DID. And I think more recently we haven't seen, which is an untapped thing, the supernatural. I mean, he started out, it makes sense, right? Moon Knight, the full moon and the werewolves. But we've kind of lost that, I think, more recently with Moon Knight. I just wonder, I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just wondering the relevance, or if there's a potential to come back. We haven't even touched upon, you've mentioned you've recently read Moon Knight #1 by Jed MacKay, which is really cool. Everyone go read it. If you, that baby right there, you've got all the 8 variants. But
yes.
we see Jed, and no, well, slight spoilers, some of them were mentioned in the interview. So if you don't want to be spoiled, please just look away. But we see vampires introduced into the Moon Knight canon. Of course, that touches into the supernatural, but we don't see any werewolves. There's a mention of a werewolf, but I'm just wondering, do you reckon we'll see more of that later on, or?
Oh, absolutely. I really think, and this was, I kind of could tell the direction it was going because, like everybody else, I was, hunched over my phone looking at the pencils and inks for this issue way back at the beginning of the year when it was first announced. And I just remember seeing that big 2-page panel where he's smashing through the van. I'm like, wait a minute, those guys are vampires, look at their teeth.
Yeah. And
I'm showing, they're like, oh yeah. So when I saw that it was going to have that connection to the supernatural kind of reestablished in a sense, I could tell MacKay really understood the origins of Moon Knight, not just that the detective aspects from his because I call the Doug Mensch run sort of the detective years because he had his runs in the supernatural, but he really was more of this he wasn't really a superhero, he was more of a costumed adventurer. He had the runs with Lupinar, international intrigue, missions from his past as, being with the CIA. And those are really cool. But I really missed his time where he was just like this mortal man stepping into the world of the supernatural, where he literally had the blessing of a moon god, so he could walk amongst the monsters and sort of wade through it relatively unscathed. And I love kind of getting back to that, where we're seeing the supernatural kind of intermingle on a street level. That's the one thing I always loved, is that Moon Knight is a street level hero.
Yeah,
he doesn't really do the big cosmic stuff, Age of KHONSHU.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Oh, sorry. But but no, like just seeing like his new mission as as we see there, yeah, and like the Midnight mission, and sort of the fact like I don't know if you picked up on this, but we don't actually see Mark out of any costume. We only see Mr. Knight and we see Moon Knight. We don't see Mark Spector or Jake Lockley or
Very
Stephen
true.
Grant.
Yeah, just through the photos, basically. That was the only shot we got towards the end.
Only thing we got was flashbacks. So
Yeah.
who knows what's going on under that cowl?
Yeah. Well, actually, you just reminded me as well, speaking of the supernatural and bringing it to street, there's that cover to issue 3 with Hunter's Moon. And I know some of the loonies will be screaming at me for not raising it, so I'm raising it now. There seems to be a bit of a hairy hand and claw coming out of Hunter's Moon. So we saw him in issue 1. It doesn't look like he's a werewolf, but that cover does seem to reveal something. So, yeah, I mean, actually, I'm just going back to this relevance. Maybe Jed is bringing it back. I like, and tying it in with the KHONSHU, because the KHONSHU worship, because Hunter's Moon is the left fist of KHONSHU. I love it. I love this idea, because of course there are 2 fists.
Well, of course it would be. I'm surprised they didn't do anything. Well, they kind of did with like his brother trying to be like, Shadow Knight and everything. Yeah, but
But this is I think a really smart way of explaining it. Like, there are 2 fists. There might be a headbutt of KHONSHU as well. A kick, a left foot. No, I'm sure just the 2 fists. But to integrate the werewolf, the lycanthropy with that, I think is pretty cool. So yeah, there does seem to be a relevance. So yeah, in fact, Jed MacKay is mixing all of those 3 quite well. There's a little mention of DID, but I like this idea about how Dr. Sturman is not bothered about the DID, because that can be kind of managed and treated. She's more concerned about how KHONSHU has touched his brain, which I think is a great idea.
Yes, and again, it goes back to that whole Marvel Now run with Brian Michael Bendis. I love how they've kind of gone full circle on that, on the pun.
Yeah, no, for sure. No,
seeing the return of Mr. Knight, seeing the return of the Crescent suit.
Yep.
Very interesting.
It's a great marriage and it's such a, Jed has done his homework and it's so well integrated. I just love it. So, yeah, I mean, we can wax lyrical, no pun intended, about it for a while. But as mentioned, if you haven't heard, have a listen, loonies, to the previous 2 episodes, our reaction and the feedback episodes for issue 1. Can't wait for the month, issue 2 next month to come. Also, another
my monthly book. Why do we have to word?
I know. Can't we just binge it, just like a TV show? Just release all of them at once. But another question here, Daniel, before we wrap up our just idle chat, because I know I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to invite you to later on this week, if it's possible, to review an arc review. Would that be possible, Daniel?
Absolutely.
Yes,
who you think I am? I got no social life. This is my social life.
The illusion is maintained. I'm talking about because you are coming back later in the week, of course. Yeah. So a couple of other questions here that I thought of. Well, actually, just maybe one. What would you think a scenario of if? Because remember how Moon Knight they kind of retconned it, but they had for a while that he gained his strength and stuff. He was actually a little bit augmented from the bite of the werewolf, which you kind of see off panel, but it's mentioned later on. What would you think if like Moon Knight does? I mean, this could well be what Jed might be heading towards for at least Hunter's Moon. But what do you think of this kind of marriage between Moon Knight potentially having some sort of lycanthropic powers and also be the Avatar of Vengeance?
I think it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, it harkens back to when they did it in Fist of Khonshu Moon Knight, and they kind of had him where he was getting his strength and like depending on the phases of the moon kind of thing, and it was like the blessings from Khonshu's priest. I would just love to see kind of like almost like an homage almost, because remember when he was like deteriorating after he got bit by Demon Goblin, and he's like taking off his glove and like you see his like hand is deteriorating. Oozing, I'd love to see him like in a fight, and then he like stands up and he's like, oh God, why does my hand hurt so much? He takes off his glove and it's like almost fully transformed, and he's just like, oh, that'd
be cool.
Wow.
Yeah, that'd be good. And then you take off the mask. It's got a snout. It'd be cool. It'd be awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, who knows where this Jed MacKay thing's going? That cover to issue 3 may reveal a lot more than we know. It may not just be Hunter's Moon. It could move beyond. I mean, who knows? Dr. Badder can bite Mark, and what happens then? It's game on.
Right?
Yeah. Finally, as well, just want to mention that for those still interested in Werewolf by Night, there was a recent series that came out in 2020 in October. It was written by that Taboo guy from Black Eyed Peas and art by Scott Eaton. It was called Werewolf by Night. It wasn't Jack Russell. It was someone else.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot about that one.
Well, I dare say maybe some people did. Many people did. I had a look on Marvel.com. It lasted 4 issues. It was a 4-issue mini. I was just going to ask if you'd read it. I haven't read it, and I'm wondering if it had any ramifications, if it actually set up anything. It may be kind of self-contained. Maybe we'll have to go away and read it quickly ourselves to get acquainted.
And like, you can't sit there like, had nothing to do with Moon Knight, no.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but no, I found it kind of interesting. I was keen to get it, but, finances and priorities got in the way when it first came out. I wasn't too... yeah. I wasn't too deterred by the fact that it wasn't Jack Russell. It sounded interesting. It was Native American based. I understood the gentleman. I don't even know his name. He had the curse put on him. But yeah, I don't know how it went. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Anyway,
comic shop and look for the back issues.
Yeah, that's it. You've got the luxury of, don't you guys have like the $2 bins and stuff? Like, they just reduce them, don't they? They increase
the quarter bin.
Quarter bins, yeah. Every back issue here, they increase it. It doesn't matter like how. So it's always more expensive, which is a bit of a shame. Anyway, I guess. No, we'll leave the feedback for the next episode. Just got just a little bit of feedback just from some of the loonies on past episodes. But if we go to Spectacle, Daniel, is there anything you'd like to shout out to our fair loonies?
Oh, geez. Oh, man. Oh, not much comes to mind, but by the way, I've got to GoFundMe. A little funny book that I do called Fringe Knight. Mm-hmm. You may have heard of it. It's this little thing that I do. But yeah, yes. I've done a GoFundMe to get my latest issue done. Just with everything that's been going on the last year, financially, it's been really tough trying to put out an independent comic book when you're, working yourself. So I'm going to stand on the street corner with a little tattered hat and a sign that says, please give me money so I can make the comic. I'm going to do it digitally here for all the loony listeners. Just imagine me with the big, sad kitty eyes with the little tattered hat. Just throw some money into the GoFundMe.
Look, let's not have Daniel do that, Loonies. Go check it out. I mean, the past few episodes, they've been in the show notes. Also links to Daniel's Fringe Knight Patreon page as well. Definitely check it out. It is worth it. Fringe Knight is so much fun. So again, Fringe Knight number 6, the GoFundMe page, there's a link, as well as his Patreon. Next phase, Daniel, I'm so glad that you'll be able to make some time later in the week. We have a last quarter moon. So no werewolves out yet, no full moon yet. It is an over the moon arc, and it's almost as if we plan this, Daniel. We're going to be looking at the arc Moon Knight Volume 1, 29 to 30. It's titled Morning Star and the Moonwraith, 3 Sixes and a Beast. And it's all to do with Moon Knight and Jack Russell, the Werewolf by Night. So looking forward to reviewing that with Daniel. I don't know, Daniel, any other final words before we get out of here?
Oh, you mean this Moon Knight right here that I happen to have in my hands?
Oh, very close. 29. I'm not sure what that one was. I can't remember that one. But yeah,
that was 27.
27. I didn't
it's
turn it. Yeah.
Big old Knight.
Yes, the essentials. Yes, a lot of listeners would be familiar with the cover of 29. It's that really beautiful black cover with just the eyes and eyes of the werewolf and Moon Knight in the foreground, and those blood red 666s across. So we'll get through to that next towards the end of the week. But Daniel, thank you so much for dropping by.
It's always nice to drop by. I'm glad I had a cushion under me this time, because last time I almost broke my legs.
Oh my gosh. Oh jeez. You should find yourself a seat, my good sir. Anyway, Loonies, we'll catch you later in the week. Thanks for listening.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.